are in front of our main facility at Gibson. Yesterday, here in our Memphis facility, corporate headquarters several blocks from here, we had a raid. Federal marshals that were armed came in, evacuated our factory, shut down production, sent employees home, confiscated wood. Extremely troubling. What is more troubling is that the Justice Department's position is that any guitar that we ship out of this facility is potentially obstruction of justice and can be followed with criminal charges because we bought product from India. And we test that. They're Indian rosewood and ebony. And rosewood and ebony is used in almost every guitar by any manufacturer. Has been used by us for many, many years. It is not illegal. It was exported legally, endorsed by the Indian government. It was Forest Stewardship Council recognized wood, which one of the things they look for is the legality of the wood. And so we're not in the wrong. We haven't actually been charged with any wrongdoing, and yet our entire operation has effectively been noticed to be shut down. Now, just a case in point, over the last 2 years, we have hired 580 American workers just in the last 2 years. We are one company manufacturing in the United States that's hiring people, that is succeeding exporting, and yet the government is spending millions of dollars on this issue. They flew agents in from New Orleans, Albuquerque, Washington, D.C. This is kind of a big deal to get the federal government on top of it. So it's unjust, it's unfair, potentially it's illegal. We did nothing wrong. The first raid that we had almost 2 years ago, we still haven't got any charges. There is still no charges and no reason, and yet they confiscated wood. We have a trial here in Nashville to recover that wood, where the government has to prove that there was something illegal about it. The government, at the very end, we're almost at the end of that trial, has asked the judge to stay the proceedings, meaning stop, and just keep us hanging so that we can't even get our day in court. We have fully proven, in fact, that Madagascar wood was legal. We've had affidavits from the Madagascar government and so forth. We feel totally abused. We believe the arrogance of federal power is impacting me personally, our company personally, and the employees here in Tennessee. And it's just plain wrong. That's kind of my nickel speech here, and I would be very happy to answer questions, and I have specifics as well.
So are the allegations about the wood in India that they're alleging that it's somehow illegal also?
You know, first of all, they have not told us what was specifically illegal. And we infer from the case that we have here in Nashville that their position is that since wood, specifically we're talking about fingerboard blanks, which are partially finished fingerboards that we then put on the guitar and finish. That because they're partially finished, they cannot be exported because Indian law, in this case, we're talking about Indian rosewood and ebony. Indian law requires that all the work be done in India before it's exported. So in other words, if they finish the fingerboard in India and send it here, that's okay. But if they send it partially finished and American workers work on it, that's not okay, that's illegal by Indian law.
Can you offer a brief history of how the companies tried to comply with the Lacey Act since it was expanded to accommodate plants? What steps? What steps we have specifically taken? Well, we had a very active program of certification. And so I'm on the board of directors of the Rainforest Alliance. And we had a program even before the first raid where a great percentage of our wood was certified by the Forest Stewardship Council. Not all, but a large percentage. We've expanded that program, and we are now going into what's called controlled wood. To meet the certification process, there's like a 200-page requirement. And not all species of wood can meet that because they're not grown on plantations. They're logged as individual trees. And so there's a secondary level of certification, if you will. It's not true certification, called controlled wood, which is what we're going for. So we very aggressively have sought out sources of both certified and controlled wood. And the vast majority of our wood already is that. The wood that was confiscated was controlled wood under this Forest Stewardship.
Are you saying that you really are under the impression you are not supposed to ship anything from these two plants, or else you're going to get in trouble?
I can actually the execution of these warrants, that containing ebony and rosewood from India is described above. However, the United States considers all items containing such wood, including guitars, both finished and unfinished, to be prohibited for sale or transport across state lines pursuant to the Lacey Act. Please be advised that each instance of sale or transportation of such items could be considered an additional violation of the Lacey Act by the United States. It could lead to additional
guitars, fretboards, and items in general do they now have from you? Like how many did they take yesterday and how many did they take?
I can tell you in dollar amounts, it's almost $1 million worth of value. And what it does is it shut down production. You know, we use that as raw materials. If they take our raw materials, we can't produce the product. So it's been extremely disruptive beyond just the value of the material.
So right now you're just not, you're technically threatening to violate more laws in their opinion.
Supposedly every guitar that we build, you know, is a technical criminal violation.
So are you going to stop doing it, or are you going to?
Well, I've taken personal responsibility. I've instructed our staff to continue building the product, and I'm taking personal responsibility for that action because I can't have our employees exposed to criminal action. And we are noticing the Justice Department that I'm taking that step and making that decision, and we'll see what they do.
And as far as a share of your guitars that you make, I mean, in Nashville and Memphis, these two plants, how many of the guitars you make come from here?
Well, in terms of Gibson brand guitars, about 95% between this plant, the custom shop, which is a few blocks from here, and the Memphis facility.
And you guys say you have all of the documentation you need to support your side on the India as far as the Indian wood goes.
Yeah, you can't really export from India without having appropriate. You know, you don't just slap it up on a ship. And there are a whole procedures that are quite complex. Where you have to have the right certificates, you have to have inspections, and It had to be approved by customs to get in the United States. So when you import in the United States, Customs has to check all those documents, including Lacey Act statements, and certify them before they even pass them on to us.
Do you feel singled out as a company, given that there's hundreds of luthiers in the country and that they'd probably all be sitting on wood that could be in violation?
Well, you know, quite frankly, every large company, and luthiers buy in small quantities. They may not buy Indian wood, but any large company in the guitar business is using Indian rosewood and ebony. That's the major source of that product in the world. Okay, and we are the only company that has been singled out. Other companies are using it today without any ramifications, any notice, anything.
Are you 100% confident in the legality of your supply chain, including any middlemen? Is there any chance that anything could be going wrong between the supplier and you?
You know, obviously what I don't know, okay? So I can't, you know, I'm not God. I can't see behind people's backs and so forth. But to the extent possible, we have certified them. I mean, we take it quite seriously. And but I have to repeat that the issue here is not whether this wood is legally logged. This is not about conservation. This is not about the environment. This is specifically about a law in India that requires domestic labor content that we are enforcing.
Then why is it the Fish and Wildlife Service?
Because the Lacey Act is a fish and wildlife law, and wood is under that jurisdiction. What the Lacey Act does is it says that you must comply with the law of all countries from which you source product. And so they have the obligation under that law to enforce the whatever legal code, you know, the source product is in, whether it's India, Madagascar, you know, Honduras, whatever.
The previous one was Madagascar ebony. That was the previous issue. This
That's
one
correct.
Is Indian.
This one is Indian.
Indian ebony and Indian rosewood.
Yeah, which is, you know, a pretty big surprise to us, frankly.
Are you still importing from Madagascar?
No, we are not.
And was the
But it was not
raid,
illegal.
what was the 09 raid? Did that have any impact on the decision to contract with India or supply from India?
We were buying from India, and we were buying from the same suppliers for many years.
Okay.
The Lacey Act is very recent. That law was passed, you know, approximately 2 years ago. So it's not like that law's been around for a long time. But according to this law, if you bought a guitar from us and you resell it, you are criminally liable. You, not us. Everyone who touches the product, the store owner who sells that guitar, is criminally liable. And it doesn't matter whether he knew or not that there was some issue there. It's a pretty dangerous precedent in my opinion.
Are you having vendors back away?
Not at this point, but certainly everybody in the industry is very, very concerned.
Are you making any kind of emergency appeal to members of Congress and sort of saying this has turned into this unintended, clearly, situation to try to get something remedied?
Well, we certainly, you know, I'm making a lot of calls right now. I've talked to them before when the first raid happened. And really, we're in this, you know, really incredible situation. We have been implicated in wrongdoing, and we haven't been charged with anything. And our business has been injured to millions of dollars. We don't even have a court that we could go to and say, well, look, here's our position. Here's our, you know, that's kind of an unusual position. And they're shutting us down. And there's no judge, there's no jury, there's no due process. You know, I think that's a little wacky.
So a judge had to sign a search warrant.
Yes. And it was a judge that signed the search warrant, that's correct.
And what did the search warrant say?
that they're able to search for. They had a list of about 100 items. Pretty much it was anything.
How were yesterday's raids related to an investigation in Texas?
In Texas.
So I read in some media reports that it's linked to a possible investigation of Gibson in Texas, and I just wanted.
Did they come through the port of Houston or something? Is that the deal?
You know, I haven't heard anything about Texas, and I don't know.
That was something that Fish and Wildlife, I mean, they told me, you know, that the investigation began out of Texas. That was something that I was told by them.
Do you have any facilities or dealings in Texas?
Well, we have an office in Austin. It's an entertainment office, but I don't think that is. So I'm not aware. No one has contacted us. You know, we don't have any factories in Texas.
After the previous raid here, and we reported that they took 6 guitars. Did they take more than that? I mean, I assume they did. 6 seems awfully low, but...
I don't know.
You don't know?
You know, I wasn't there personally.
After that, you guys stopped dealing with Madagascar in terms of... Was that a direct result of that raid? Was that like...
Oh, yeah, man. You know, the feds come in and... the thing is, if people wanted to stop us from doing something, you would think they'd tell you in advance. Say, well, look, guys, we have a problem with this. You know, you need to do something. Give us a plan. In 2 cases, we had a SWAT team treating us like drug guys come in and shut us down with no notice. And, you know, that's just wrong. I mean, we're a business. We're making guitars. You know, armed people in SWAT attire is just inappropriate.
And have they been able to, have you kept any kind of communication channel with that office? Do you talk to them? Does your legal counsel talk to them on an ongoing basis?
Well, to the extent they will talk to us. You know, the case, we have one case here in Nashville, which I alluded to, and it's still dragging on. They have missed deadlines. You know, the government has missed deadlines. They wanted to delay it another 6 months, you know, and they could do whatever they want, I guess.
Is there any guitar manufacturing that will be happening now, or does this completely shut you guys down from making either acoustic or electric guitars?
Well, you know, we hope to continue to manufacture. That's an ongoing dialogue with the Justice Department. And so I can't really answer that.
Is there any going on now?
Probably, but I don't think that's still an ongoing. We're in dialogue.
So can you be very clear? Are you going to be making? I thought you were saying you take personal responsibility because you are going to keep making guitars.
My intent is to do that.
But
I am also noticing the Justice Department that is the case, right?
You want to hear what they have to say about you saying
Yes.
you're.
Yeah, you might be interviewing me in jail in another hour or so. I don't know. So we'll see.
How much money would Gibson stand to lose by shutting down for the period of time the government says?
$1 million. You know, I mean, one day it easily cost us $1 million. I mean, it's our entire business, you know, and it's not like a small thing.
You said under the Lacey Act that customers are implicated as criminals if they purchase these guitars?
Yes, and they have been, and it has nothing to do with, you know, that's a big thing in our industry. You know, a lot of the retailers are quite
right.
concerned.
But is that, what is your take on the ethics of passing the criminal implication onto the customers?
Well, you know, I hate to expound on ethics. You know, I'm a business guy, right? But I don't think it's fair.
Sure.
I mean, I think there's an issue of just plain common sense fairness, okay? And, you know, you don't abuse one company versus another company. You treat people the same, you know? And, but apparently that's not necessary if you're the federal government. And, you know, most people would say you have to know you did something wrong to do something wrong. This law says no. You don't have to have done anything wrong to be going to jail. And so there are some and there's some technical issues that I won't get into that are not sound bites. that make this law really unfair and provocative from a constitutional standpoint.
Is there a specific model of guitars or all Gibsons made in the past year or 2 years?
You know, all our guitars use rosewood and ebony. All guitars use rosewood. You know, there's a very few guitars that maybe use maple fingerboards.
Why do you think Gibson was focused on more so than other companies?
I don't know, but we are, as a fact. You know, they haven't shared anything with us. Everything is sealed. They won't tell us a thing.
Do you think this hurts the company's reputation?
Well, yeah, we're in the press. People assume that you're getting to be investigated by the federal government, that you're guilty. And, you know, we can't even say we're not guilty of this because we're just guilty of something they can't tell us yet. Think about that. We're guilty of something they can't tell us what it is yet. And how do you respond to that? You know, maybe you guys can help me out.
Have other guitar manufacturers, have they contacted you to offer any support or solidarity?
I haven't asked for it. I know of a few of the other guys in the industry, and I'm sure they would. There's really not, other than, you know, writing letters perhaps to their congressman, there's really not that much they can do. You know. They have the risk of maybe getting shot at if they raise their hand. You know. So I don't blame them for being a little shy with the issue.
Is the Lacey Act the only statute here that's really caused a cock-up as far as you're concerned, or is there a matrix of laws and regulations?
Well, I think there are two things. One is the Lacey Act. The Lacey Act has the problem is it leaves a lot to interpretation. In other words, it says that you must use your something like judicious efforts to make sure you don't do anything wrong. And what that means in legalese is you don't have to know it's wrong. You should have known it's wrong if you didn't spend or do some certain things, but they never define what those certain things you have to do to meet that test are. And so that's like a giant blank check for a prosecutor. Because, you know, frankly, they could say anything. There is no administrative procedure to ensure that you complied with the law. That's just a bad, malformed law. The other thing is, you know, the law is about judgment, okay? You know, there's speeding laws, and you know, it's about how you apply those laws. And there's a rational, you know, if you have rational people applying those laws, that's great. And there's a judgment. You know, do you want to really spend $20 million to, you know, go after Gibson guitar? Or do you want to spend $20 million in another? There are lots of, you know, issues to spend money on. And the federal bureaucracy is just out of hand. And there seems to me there's almost a class warfare. You know, companies versus people, rich versus poor, Republicans versus Democrats, liberals versus, you know, and there's just a lack of somebody that stands up and says, you know what, I'm about everyone. I'm about everyone, okay? I think I'm really about America and doing what's good for the country and not fighting these little battles. So the Lacey Act, I was told, and this is hearsay, that I was told it was passed by a congressperson in Oregon at the behest of lumber unions. And lumber unions wanted to achieve American companies buying American lumber as opposed to foreign. So that's not a national objective. That is an environment that, you know, mom and apple pie. That's somebody looking at their own small agenda. And it has had these unintended consequences. So maybe that's okay, but where is the person that says, you know, the national agenda is served if this happens? And I think that's lacking. That's my 2 cents anyhow.
Thank you.
So the basis for the warrant was that you had illegally seized wood from or got wood from India. Am I understanding that right?
Basis of the warrant? No, there is no basis of the warrant. It just says
there wasn't an affidavit with it that said we have probable cause to believe X.
No,
there wasn't.
There was not.
So how do you know it concerns the wood from India?
We don't. It's been suggested because of our court case. I don't know that for a fact.
But that's what they seized, right?
But that's what they seized, and we assume that since that's what they're arguing in the court case, that's the issue. But we don't know that for certain.
And your argument is that the stuff from India you got lawfully because the Indian government approved it for export?
Yeah, let me just read something. You know, that's very technical stuff, and so let me read it. So we had a seizure of this wood. Indian supplier has thoroughly documented that the goods in question were legally exported from India in accordance with current Indian laws and regulations. Generally, the following documents have to be submitted to the Indian authorities prior to export: copy of IEC import-exporter registration, invoice and packing list, proof of purchase from a government-controlled depot trader, and a sawmill license. Without the above documents, export permission for the consignment in question would not have been granted. The shipping bill, proof of export permission from the responsible authority after physical verification of the consignment and the related documents is not only stamped by the airport itself, but also by the Office of the Deputy Commissioner of Customs. So the goods have passed customs, which would not have been possible if the supplier had not presented the above documents. Further, the accompanying documents, such as certificate of origin and phytosanitary certificate, would not have been issued if the export was not permitted. Additionally, the goods are FSC-controlled wood, i.e. their legal origin has been verified beyond doubt by an independent third party. WWF has confirmed that the species are not listed under the CITES Act, CITES. Letter from DGFT, the Directorate General of Foreign Trade of the Government of India, stating that the goods are freely exportable, super legislation through the highest government body of the previous steps, everything that could and should be done, and all relevant and required documents do exist and can be presented.
What are you reading? What is that?
It is notes on what happened.
Your own notes, not...
Did you write them, or...?
This is...
Other people contributed to that, yeah. Why
well, these are not...
I just want to know how to describe what
this is not federal admission that those...
This is not this is not from the federal government.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
It is not. This is a document generated internally.
And the court case you're referring to that makes you guess that this has to do with Indian wood is the forfeiture proceeding?
Yes.
I thought that had to do with Madagascar wood.
It does.
So where does the connection to India arise from that case?
There are similar laws in India.
Okay. And you're not doing it for Madagascar anymore?
No.
Okay.
You should ask the feds. Go ask them.
We're trying.
Maybe they'll tell you. All right.
Thanks for taking the time.